Well, here we are. No more lore to talk about. Malco has officially released and will be the final story until Odyssey gains more financial support and a bigger fan base to bring more content into the game. So I guess it's time to shift gears from lore to gameplay. So for context, I started my Omega Strikers journey near the end of the beta in December 2022 and have been active in the game since launch in April of this year. My highest rank in the game was Diamond in Season 1 and reached top 1000 NA in Season 2. Needless to say, I am quite experienced in this game. I say all this since I have heard that the game seems to have the stigma of being bare bones, having little complexity as a game, and not pertaining to casual players all that well, which is far, far from the truth. And quite honestly, I don't blame these players because the tutorial doesn't really help new players with understanding the depths of the game's mechanics. And even without the tutorial, the game makes said mechanics pretty hidden for absolutely no reason. So if anyone from the Odyssey dev team ever happens to watch this baby YouTuber video, take this as some incredibly late feedback for how the tutorial could be overhauled to help players better understand the game, and maybe take it as some advice for later games that you might be developing. But for new players, I implore you to use this as a reference for how the game works. But before we get into it, I need to address something first. Hey, so this is Editor Nivet Man here, and I just want to say that this script was made before I ever thought that one of the Odyssey developers would ever actually watch one of my videos. On my very first video that I made, Odyssey Lunchboy happened to comment, and Lunchboy, if you ever happen to watch this, first of all, hi, I would absolutely love to talk to you. You seem like a pretty cool guy, and I just want to discuss about some of the lore that I've thought of and maybe how you feel about it. But secondly, how did you find my videos? I am so small on this channel. This channel is so small. How did you find me? And more importantly, third, if maybe you could talk about this with ASAP or some other Odyssey devs and maybe sort of use this as a reference point, I would absolutely love that. But I just want to let you guys know that I'm not trying to make sure that I'm not trying to put you down at all. I'm just trying to say that some things within this video is purely just meant for feedback and some critique. So, yeah. Anyways, on with the video. Before I critique the tutorial, I'll tell you how it works. Once you open the game for the first time, you're greeted by Juliet and are told to move Juliet from the left side of the screen to the center of the field. After being told what the core is, you strike the core around 4 times and use Juliet's secondary and primary abilities. After doing so, Juliet explains how you gain experience by scoring or other actions and unlock her special ability to use. After using her special, you are told to score a goal. Once you do, you are told about energy and strike the core 3 times to gain max energy. When you get to full energy, you are told to use the energy burst on the core to flip it into the air. You flip it, strike the core, and now are told that your non-strike abilities can damage enemies and stagger them, causing them to be easier to knock out. Being told this, Kai spawns into the field, and you are tasked with staggering him as he runs around spamming emotes. I'm not joking. Anyways, you then get to knock out the Pompous Prodigy, only for Kai to constantly spam Barrage at you after spawning back in. Once you become staggered, Juliet tells you to pick up a power orb to recover your stagger meter so that you don't get knocked out as easily. After picking up one, you then reach the final stretch where you watch dude block the core 3 times and then block the core yourself 3 more times. Once you finish that, you can then go to the golden beacon on the right side of the arena to go to the main menu, or you can stay to practice some more. Like there even is anything to practice. Okay, time for the nitty-gritty. So, this tutorial is lacking many helpful mechanics and tips for beginners. First off, and probably the most important, the tutorial states nothing about Gears and Awakenings. For newbies, Gear and Awakenings are buffs you get to choose from to make your striker of choice stronger in certain areas. Gear is picked before the game begins, and the buffs can be extra speed, draining enemy staggers for healing, extra damage, etc. Gear is split into two categories, forward gear and goalie gear. Forward gear is more combat-based, while goalie gear is more defensive. Goalie gear is far more powerful than forward gear, but comes at the cost of only being active on your side of the field. As for awakenings, you choose two starter awakenings, as I like to call them, before a match begins, and choose a new awakening every time a round is won or lost. These buffs are way more unique, ranging from extra size and health, to increasing buff and debuff duration, to sacrificing your own size for speed, while dividing the lost size in half for your teammates. Despite this mechanic being in literally every match you play when finishing the tutorial, not once is it ever brought up, or even hinted at. Now I get that these were implemented after the beta finished and the tutorial was more based around that version of the game. But that excuse doesn't hold up when the energy mechanic was implemented into the tutorial, and it made its debut alongside the gear and awakenings. So the game quite literally throws you into the deep end and expects you to understand everything when, intentionally or not, it hides a core mechanic in the game from the player. And that's another thing the tutorial has a flaw with. When you exit, the tutorial's over. You don't get any kind of menu tutorial, or an opportunity to practice what you've learned in a game with bots, or even a chance to try out the strikers you start out with, or even try out new ones you buy. You start with 4 strikers and you aren't given some kind of summary as to how they play, which especially hurts Aimee, a character that doesn't even exist in the tutorial. And since the pre-registration campaign for the game was a success, every player gains bonus striker credits to unlock a new striker easily. So on top of hiding a core mechanic in the gameplay, it doesn't even allow you to try new things without playing at least one game with a character to see how they play. Wait, hang on. Did I say a core mechanic? Let me change that. It hides several core mechanics. It hides stats, debuffs, and ability terms. Well, gee, nabbit, man, that's quite a lot of mechanics to learn about. How do you know about all of this? I hear you asking. Well, if you look closely at the lobby menu, you'll see a tiny little book button on the top left that leads you to a playbook menu. This is where you can read about every single little detail in the game. The fact that you have to go out of your way to enter this menu without the game telling you what the button leads to in the first place is not only super poor tutorial design, but also poor menu design. Especially since every other menu has an obvious icon that tells you what each menu leads to. Yeah, you could say that after Odyssey added practice mode, there would be a need to expand upon the tutorial, but practice mode doesn't allow you to experiment with gear or awakenings. And practice mode is pretty bare bones since you can't really do much besides warm up your skills or try out a new character by seeing how their abilities work. So again, the game is handicapping new players by unintentionally limiting their knowledge of the game. Also, the versus bots game mode isn't really helpful for new players since A, the AI will always go Julia, Kai, and Dulu as their strikers, and B, the game mode is more representative of quick play matches instead of casual matches. Quick play matches give you a set of awakenings at the start, and the first team to reach 5 points with a lead of 2 wins. If new players want to jump straight into casual matches, neither of these game modes are going to help with expanding their horizons and skills. So how can we fix the tutorial to help out new players and have them return to play more? Well, for starters, having a tutorial game where every player minus you are bots with Julia explaining things like goal barriers, gear, awakenings, etc. will be a tremendous help in exposing how actual matches would play out. And once you finish that, a menu tutorial could show you where each menu button leads. Say, for example, you want to learn more about a striker. Julia can lead you to the striker menu, press Julia's striker icon, and learn about her abilities, lore, likes, etc. Having a guiding hand for the menu in the game would be way better than just "Congrats, kiddo, you know the bare basics of the game. Now get out there and play with and against players who know the game inside out." Which is a totally different problem that we could talk about later. So, to anyone from Odyssey's dev team who happens to watch this, I respect you and understand the amount of stress and pressure you're going through right now as an indie company. But the tutorial really needs a revamp to help keep new players in and give them the opportunity to learn the game easily. And for newbies who just so happen to watch me, I once again plead you to use this video as a guide until the tutorial gets a rework that helps out way more than it does now. And for everyone who watches me, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to help me with the algorithm, along with turning notifications on to know when I make a new video. I am definitely looking forward to the war that goes on in the comments about how the tutorial is completely fine, and that it doesn't really need any changes. Until next time, happy holidays, keep on striking, and remember that this is for the cause. We're here to save Omega Strikers.